pilot work. I hope you're ready to learn and do some really good hard work. I'm hoping that by the end of our time together, you will have some really concrete action steps that you will be able to implement in your schools. Some stuff you may be able to implement right away. Other things are going to take some discussion and some time. And certainly, you can feel free to call on me to help with that process at any point in time while we're together for the next few months. Some people I know just through other opportunities and trainings, and having met with the school coaches and other people, and I don't know. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go ahead and start with some introductions. And I did send that email out earlier today about how I think it'll be best to do introductions. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and give a little feedback or a little information, and then we'll jump on to Academy Hill and so on and so forth. So as you probably all are aware, my name is Andrea Logan, and I am the State of Maine MTSS Specialist. I came on the department at the end of November of 2019. So I was around just long enough to get my feet wet, start meeting some people, and then we all went home to work from home. And so, there has been some lag time, I think, trying to get MTSS really kick-started across the state and get some statewide initiatives going. And so this is a very big step for us to pull some schools in to do specific training. There's been other trainings and things like that, but for this to be something that's going to have a start and end with a group of people that will hopefully network and continue to network after we're done is a pretty big step, I think, for our state. So you guys are like trailblazers, because we have not done something of this nature really in this way, where we've pulled folks together to do actual networking and action plans with each other. So I'm excited about that. I am 6 to 8 weeks away from finishing my doctorate in education. I studied multi-tiered systems of support and communication of principals, the principal communication and how it relates to how they communicate about MTSS. I am just waiting for my defense date at this point, so super excited about that. I have 2 kids, 16. My son will be 14 tomorrow. One of them drives. It's very terrifying. And that's about it for me. So welcome again. I'm really excited. And why don't we go ahead and jump in with Academy Hill and to do introductions.
All right, my name is Keith Aceto. I'm the principal of Academy Hill and Cushing School in Wilton, RSU 9. My 22nd year as a school administrator, 13 in California, and this is my 9th year here in Wilton. I have Lucinda Drexler. She's one of my 5th grade teachers, if you can wave, Lucinda. I have Haley T. Cutter, a 2nd grade teacher. I have Melissa Brown. She's my 2-3 special ed teacher. Hannah Hansen, my Title I reading teacher. And Nancy Ellis, my Title I math teacher.
And who is the coach for Academy Hill?
Sue.
Hi, you want to introduce yourself now, Sue? Yeah.
Sure. I'm Sue Dion, Academy Hill's coach, and I'm actually at the same time, I'll introduce myself as Wayne's coach as well, which will be coming up after, so I can do it all together. This is my 2nd year as a literacy coach, a leadership coach at the state. I was retired as a principal and have taught multiple grades. My early childhood was my undergrad, and then I did ed leadership. And I'm thrilled to be part of this pilot. So thank you.
That should be Cherryfield next, right, Derek?
Yeah, so my name is Derek Perkins. I'm the principal at Cherryfield Elementary School. This is my 1st year as principal, my 3rd year as an administrator. On my team, I have my pre-K teacher, Melanie Piper. She can wave right there. Hi, Melanie. I have Megan Grover, who's listed as Amber. That threw me off, Megan. But, well, I know it's you. She's our reading recovery and one of our title teachers. And I also have Crystal Perry, our other Title I teacher. And our coach is Amy Peterson Roper, who's been a phenomenal resource for us this year.
Great. Amy, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Amy Peterson-Roper. I'm Cherry Field's coach, as well as a bunch of other schools that are not here. Really excited that Cherry Field is continuing its journey on MTSS. And I do know Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Nice to see you, and looking forward to this work.
Great. Yeah, welcome back, Cherryfield. You guys did the Summer Institute, right? Last summer. So you had the real high level, like high 40-foot view, 1,000-foot view of MTSS. So hopefully we're going to bring that down a little bit in this next session. So welcome back. Let's see if I can do my alphabet. Dresden, I think that would be next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah DeRoseby. I am the teaching principal at Dresden Elementary, which is part of RSU2. This is my second year in this district and in this role. Before that, I was in Lewiston for about 10 years as a teacher and literacy coach. And joining me, I just have a few members from my leadership team. Others couldn't attend for different reasons, but Roberta Hart, if you could wave, she's my first grade teacher. And Karen Kidder is my fourth grade teacher. And like I said, my special ed teacher and my Title I teacher could not attend this meeting today. And our coach is Linda St. Andre.
Hi, I'm Linda, and I am very, very excited to be here, especially with the principal of Dresden and her team. They've been doing some great work, and I had my background is teaching and being an administrator in Lewiston for all of my 35-year career, I think it was, before I went to DOE. So now I'm really enjoying being a coach and helping out in the schools, and I'm very, very excited about this pilot.
Welcome. Awesome. That should bring us to Glenburn. Yes, Glenburn.
I'm Angela Pratt, curriculum coordinator and principal at Glenburn School. And the only one that I have with me today is Diane Norris, who is our speech and language pathologist. The other members of the team were unable to attend today. And our coach is Cheryl Turpin.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Turpin. As Angela said, I started working with the DOE in November of this year. So while Angela and I have met and have been speaking, I haven't met her team yet. I will meet the team this week. I myself am a retired educator. I had 47 years in total. I had 26 in the classroom and 19 as a building administrator. And I too find this position exciting, and particularly the MTSS. And I've been speaking with other colleagues that I used to work with, and they're all excited and wish that they could be part of this pilot.
Welcome, Cheryl. We haven't met, I don't think.
No, we communicated via email.
Right, okay. Perfect, well, welcome. And then last but not least, and you won't always go last, Wayne School.
I'm Tina Brackley. I'm the principal at Wayne. I actually just started this position in October. I was an assistant principal at Maranacook High School, so in the same RSU 38 to start the year, and then came aboard with Wayne. It's been super exciting, and we're excited to be a part of this. Most of our leadership team isn't here today, but Tony Parker is my special ed teacher, and she is joining us today.
Great. And who is your coach? Oh, Sue is your coach, correct?
Sue is our coach, yep.
Right, okay, wonderful. All right, you guys probably all know Terry Peasley. She is the project manager. She's gonna be doing a lot of the back office work with me and for me in some cases. Terry, do you wanna just say hello?
I do wanna say hello and apologize for the camera that I have. It's DOE issued. I just want that noted. And so if it appears that I'm in the dark, it's because I am most of the time. So just, it is what it is. It's a privilege to put a face to each of your names because I have corresponded with each and every one of you at least once, I believe. So I wish you well during this journey together to take full advantage of the opportunity that's been given to you. And if you have any questions along the way or any technical issues, please don't hesitate to contact me. Our job here is to serve you and to make your life as principals and leadership teams easier. And it's a privilege to be able to do so. Thank you.
This is actually a good place to interject. If and when you want to email or need to email, like myself or Terry, if you could do us a favor, and if you have to email Terry, if you would CC me, and then vice versa, if you have a question for me, if you wouldn't mind CCing Terry as well, because sometimes the email can be funny, and some people will get certain things, and then if you try forwarding or replying, then other people don't get, you know, like other things. So we just want to try and streamline that a little bit so that neither of us misses something that might be important for one of you, and so we can get back to you in a timely manner. And I see that Cheryl Lang is here too. I don't know if you're actually available, Cheryl, but if you wanted to just say hello. Oh, there she is.
Hold on. There. Can you hear me now? Hi, everyone. It is so nice to put your faces with your names and see you all collectively. Quite often we work with individual schools, and as Andrea said, this is our first opportunity to really bring all of you together to embark on this journey with Andrea and MTSS, and we are really excited to embark on that journey with you. So I am not going to say anymore. I have my camera off because I keep getting the unstable internet connection. And so I don't want to get booted out of the meeting. So I keep my camera off, but I am here.
Yeah. And again, this is a good place to interject that I've been experiencing that a lot today as well. So if I shut my camera off, it's because I'm trying to preserve keeping the meeting going and not losing anybody. So I'll just put that there. So if, you know, certainly it's the end of the school day, it's late, it's Friday, we're going to end right at 4:30 today. If not even a few minutes sooner, going to try to get through things so then it's Friday. But, you know, and I had explained in the email yesterday that, you know, initially Friday was the only day that we were going to be able to do this, but I'm actually really happy that we've been able to move it to a better day, because I just think that it's better for everybody all around. So hopefully that change has been well received from most folks. And on further, February through June, we will move this meeting to 3:30 to 4:30 on Thursdays. So if you feel like you need to get up and stretch and, you know, walk around, get a drink, do whatever you need to do, certainly, you know, do all the things that you need to do to take care of yourselves, and, you know, and join us back whenever you're ready. Okay, so already covered that. Not a big one for slides. Like I'll give meeting notes, but I am not like a huge like slides person. And part of that is because I'll overplan if I'm allowed to make a slide deck. Like I'll put 50 slides in something and I only have like 25 minutes to do it. So I tend to stay a little bit better on track if I'm not creating slide decks. I will give notes though. So like I have notes that I've taken today, and then what I'm going to do is start a document with the notes as we go through them. That way you can take your own notes, as you probably are, and then that email will go out to you at the end of the session with the link to the recording, so that like folks that don't have people here, they can watch it later. And then actually this is a good point to put in that if you've got folks that are going to be joining that didn't or weren't able to come today, we are going to do introductions at the beginning of each meeting in the same fashion that we just did, until everybody has been introduced, right? So we don't necessarily have to all introduce, actually, no, we would, because they wouldn't have our introductions. So we're going to do that until everybody has been introduced, just so that nobody feels like they're, you know, a stranger or an outlier, that kind of thing. So let's see, get that first set of notes up. I'm gonna zoom big. There we go. go. That should be viewable for everyone. Okay. Okay, so here is the outline of our brief agenda today. So welcome and introductions, we've gotten that done, and we're not too bad on schedule actually at this point, so that's pretty good. We're gonna do a quick overview of the pilot and go through a few things about what you can expect, some of the, some of the norms and lenses and things like that I'm gonna ask that you work through. Cherryfield will recognize these norms and lenses because I believe we may have done them this summer as well. So won't be any big surprises there. We're going to talk about the high level components of MTSS and their alignment to Dirigo Star indicators, but that's going to be basically the only time that we bring up Dirigo Star. I know that there's another program going on that you could have chosen for Dirigo Star. And while I'm not that person, there are lots of MTSS components that overlap. So since you all are using, or if you're not using, I'm not sure, I get confused sometimes about like who is and is not using Dirigo Star. But I just wanted to kind of take a few minutes and align some of the MTSS components to the Dirigo Star indicators, because the MTSS Dirigo Star indicator, that one or two little indicators that's in there, is very narrow. And so I wanted to kind of just quickly show you how other indicators in the Dirigo Star framework actually align with MTSS components, so that as you're going forward and setting goals for yourselves and for your schools, you'll have more information about what areas you could be looking at and focusing on in the future. Then I want to go into the pilot priority components. So basically, the pilot priority components are they're basically like the action items. It's the pieces that exist within the big components that I've kind of pulled out, and it's what structures the rest of this pilot, of this training. And so those are going to be the pieces that are the ones that you'll take back with you and decide when you want to implement them, if you want to implement them, how you want to implement them, et cetera, et cetera. So one thing that I have found, not only in my own research, but just in supporting schools over the last couple of years, is there are plenty of MTSS rubrics out in the world. They're usually 8 to 9 pages long, and it's tiny text. They're landscape printed, and it takes a week to interpret everything that's going on in one of those rubrics. I just don't particularly find them very consumable, right? And so my job is to take some of that and figure out, okay, what are the things in here that would be like a phase one? What are the things in here that you would add on later, so that we can make it much more actionable and much more doable? Because I do find that many of them are very, very overwhelming. And so the priority components are the ones that will structure the majority of our time together. I do want to open up a few minutes at the end for some Q&A for folks that have questions that have popped up either before you got here today or things that popped up while we're here together. And then we'll do a quick next steps / looking ahead, and we'll talk about like what you should be doing in the meantime before our next gathering together, and just like talking about like what's coming up and how you can reach us, and and that kind of thing. So unless anybody has any major questions or concerns, I do just want to go ahead and go to the next item, which will be our MTSS components. Or, oh, actually there's a few other review items that I wanted to do before. And this will just be really quick. Okay, so we're gonna meet February to June. You'll have some work that will need to be done in between times. There are 2 modules that have been created that you'll be asked to view and be ready to discuss during a couple of and they're quick. They're like, I don't know, maybe like 20, 25 minutes from start to finish. So, you know, they're quick. There may be, if you've been, actually Terry Field would remember this, and possibly even Cheryl or Terry or Amy. I do sometimes like to do workbooks for the different sessions, and they're digital books that you get, and then you can take notes in them. I'm not sure on this one just yet, so that's why it's like a trail behind it, because I'm not really sure about the workbook pages. I'll get back to you on that. As I just said a few minutes ago, we're going to be narrowing in on some priority components, which hopefully will help you either scale up where you're at or help you start if there are some areas that you actually haven't started yet. So we're going to go over some norms and lenses. And the other thing that I wanted to toss out in the overview is that this pilot or this, this trading, however we want to reference it, is going to have pretty much primarily a tier 1 focus. And a lot of times we enter into, RTI trainings or other MTSS trainings, and they go straight to tier 3, or they really live in that tier 2, tier 3 range. For us, we are actually going to be spending, I want to say, at least 90% of our time in that tier 1 setting, with the idea that as we develop our whole school frameworks or our MTSS foundational blocks and structural blocks, we've got to make sure that we have the strongest tier 1 that we can possibly have, so that we can have the strongest tier 2s and tier 3s we could possibly have, right? Because if you think of a snowman, and tier 1 is that bottom ball of the snowman, and then you've got your middle ball and your top ball. If you took that bottom one away, what happens to the other two? Well, they fall to the ground, right? And so we've got to make sure that that bottom snowball is big enough and strong enough to support the other 2 tiers, because that's the way we're going to think about it moving forward. And then I think I already went through this, that the sessions are implementable. How you choose to utilize them will be entirely up to you. And from February to June, we're going to follow what is considered like an adult learner learning system. So there's going to be a lot of, so all of the sessions are going to be rooted in like a research-based adult learning structure system, where you'll set little goals for yourselves, you'll seek out information during the sessions, and then you'll assess like where you were and where you wound up at the end of the session. So it has worked out pretty well in some other trainings. Okay, let me see where my norms is, right here. Okay, so there are really just 4 norms and 3 lenses that I wanted to bring up during this first session. And you can obviously see them here, but the norms are, keep an open mind. There are inevitably, guaranteed, going to be some ideas that are going to emerge over the course of the next 6 months that you're going to think I'm crazy. You really are, and that's okay. And you're going to be concerned that maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this is not where I'm supposed to be. Maybe this isn't what I thought it was going to be. What I am asking you to do is keep that open mind and stick with me, because I think Sarah Dorosby may have gone through an MTSS micro PD last spring. That was part of what we'll cover this spring too. So the problem solving process. I had a lot of people on week 1. There was like 75 people. And then it dropped to like 20 people, because most of them were like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it was. And they left. And that's their choice. That's fine. I mean, I didn't take offense to any of that. But keep that open mind, because there are going to be times where you're like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. But stick with it, because I think you'll find that the evolution of it comes out really nicely on the other side. As you learn new vocabulary, practice using that new vocabulary in discussions. Right. So as we learn different concepts or different vocabularies, practice using those, because some of the vocabulary is going to be intended to replace other ideas and other vocabulary that maybe you've been using for years and years and years and years and years. And so make your best attempt to use the new vocabulary in discussion so that you can practice it and make it become more natural. Build and encourage the discussion for learning. If you have questions and concerns, certainly I invite you to bring them up. If they're appropriate for the whole group setting, then maybe you could, drop it in the chat and then we can go from there. And then if it's a concern that could be handled between the two of us or the group, your team and I, then, kind of weigh out what is, going to keep the conversation like enriched and moving forward versus something that may slow us down. That doesn't necessarily mean that slowing down is not going to be shared with other folks. We only have an hour each month, and so there's a lot to get through. So just keep that in mind. And then when we get into the data discussions, starting in February, just keep in mind that I want you to be thinking and using the data that you have now. One thing that has popped up a lot in the last year or so, naturally, is, well, before COVID, well, before we went remote, well, before these things, and that's all very valid and it's your truth. But what we want to do is we want to kind of say, okay, that happened or is happening. There's really not much we can do about it, but in order for us to continue to move forward, we've got to use the information and the data that we have right now in front of us. So try not to live in the pre-COVID world as much as you can, and stay as in the past, right? And kind of want to just like let it sit, and then in order to make that stopgap, we want to move forward. So keeping that in mind. And then the lenses being, again, this is a tier 1 focus in our pilot. And that's going to mean that when we are analyzing data, you are going to be practicing analyzing that data from a whole group perspective, okay? And we'll get into why that is important when we meet in the February session. But it's important that we don't hone in on different students or different categories of students. We're really going to try to keep our lens really wide and make decisions and have our learning be primarily focused on the whole group data analysis. One question that I want you to be thinking about, especially when something comes across your screen or your table that might feel really uncomfortable or might seem like it's more of a constraint that you have rather than a resource that you have. Just kind of keep this question of how might we rethink this approach, right? So that goes along with that open mind. So anything that might seem like it puts you up against a wall or makes you feel like you can't deal with that or you can't get through that, always be willing to ask the question of, well, how might we take a different approach? Even if it's pie in the sky, right? Even if it's like really wild thinking, because a lot of times in those really wild thoughts, there exist these little nuggets that you can actually do. And then maybe, whatever that wall was may actually go away. And then number 3, this goes back to that tier 1 lens as well. The question when it comes to a well-functioning MTSS is not, why isn't this working for some or these kids, right? It's more of a question of, why isn't this working for everyone? Why is this system not working for everyone? Why is this curriculum not working for everyone? And so that brings us that lens back out again, so that we're focusing on that whole group versus the smaller individual, subgroups, that exist in our data sets. So those are norms and lenses. I will copy this and make sure that they appear in the notes that you'll get at the end of the session. Because right now they're not attached to the actual notes page. Any questions so far before I jump into the next part? And if you have a question and I can't see you, go ahead and just raise your hand, because that bumps you to the top of my screen. Okay. Okay. Okay, so there are 5 overarching MTSS components at the high level, at the 40,000 foot view. And those come down to a team-based leadership system, a tiered delivery system, right? But we're all familiar with those. A selection and implementation of instruction, intervention, and support system that will basically be a product of the team-based leadership and tiered delivery system. Comprehensive screening and assessment, right? So universal screeners, how do we know if it's working? How do we make decisions about the data that we receive? And then a continuous data-based decision-making process or system, right? And so these all sound very, you know, they sound pretty straightforward when you read them and you put them in order like this. But they are quite large when you think about, well, what am I focusing on team? I mean, that could take a whole year. Am I focusing on selecting, you know, interventions and supports? I mean, that takes a long time, right? And so when you break them down, they're actually a lot bigger. And so when we look at the 5 components of MTSS and we bring it down to the priority components, these are really the highlights of most of our discussions over the next few months. We're going to talk a lot about the team-based leadership and the role of the team in a well-functioning MTSS. We're going to talk a lot about the continuous data-based decision-making. And we are going to talk a lot about the tiered delivery system. But again, we're going to narrow in on that tier 1. And as we're looking at the tier 1, we're going to talk a little bit about philosophy of tier 1 MTSS. We're going to look at a problem-solving framework that will be, again, one of those action items that you may want to take back with you. And then there is actually a really nice flow chart that kind of wraps up like how the tier 1 database, decision-making, problem-solving framework all work together, right? And so that there's a flow chart that kind of leads all of that together, so you can see how all those different pieces are working together. It kind of brings the 3 top bullets together. Yes, so data and data analysis, and then leadership considerations. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and stop talking for a moment so you guys get a break from my voice, because there's another screen that I need to bring up. Let's see. Okay. All right, so we'll just take a minute or two to look at the alignment between the Dirigo star indicators and the MTSS components, just so you'll have that information available to you in the future as you're using Dirigo star. Why aren't you opening properly? Oh, there it is. Sorry, my computer is slow, like the internet, so I might turn my screen. So. Did I lose you? Can you still hear me? You can? Okay.
Yes.
But am I moving? Is my face moving? It is? Okay. All right.
Actually,
but not all the time.
No.
So you can still hear me because I was smart and I connected my audio through my phone. So that shouldn't go out even if my screen goes out. So hopefully that will be good for us to at least get through the last part of it. Okay. Looking for how to the view of this. You know what? Let's do it this way. So coaches, you've seen this, I believe, in the past. And I think that's as big as I'm going to be able to make it. So let me try and zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this is just a quick table that I will keep I'll provide in the notes so that, let's see, can you see it? Can you guys see the MTSS table? No? Okay.
We're seeing your desktop, Andrea.
You're seeing my desktop? Okay. How about now? Still desktop?
We see
No,
it now.
we can see it. Yeah.
Oh, you can see it now. Okay, perfect. All right, good. A little lag there. So this is just a quick table that sort of shows the 5 components of MTSS we just talked about, and then where they show up the best in the Dirigo Star platform that I think many of you, if not all of you, are using. And so I'm not going to go through it very closely, but just you can see that the strong leadership, is embedded typically in Principle 1, Educator Support System, Principle 2, Database Decision Making, Principle 5, but also in 5, there's a lot of Principle 3 embedded into it, right? And so if you wanted to go look at Principle 3, you could, but 5 basically covers most of what pertains to the database decision-making process in an MTSS. Integration and layering of supports, you'll find those primarily in Principles 4 and 6. And then in community involvement and engagement, that's Principle 7. So that shouldn't be like really big news for folks, because I know you know about the different features of Dirigo Star. But what I found interesting when I had an opportunity to take a look at it was that the MTSS indicator was like one little line, like 1 or 2 little lines. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that's really just RTI. And MTSS is not just RTI. RTI is something that lives within the MTSS. And so this kind of just lays out for you, if you ever want it or need it, where you might be able to align some of your MTSS goals and efforts with Dirigo Star indicators, if that's something that you are asked to do or want to do in the future. Okay. Wow, I either talked really fast or I'm getting a lot better at staying on task. Maybe it's both. Okay, I do just want to take a few minutes and open it up for some Q&A. So it is 4:09 right now. I planned about 10 minutes for the Q&A. And I do want to just make sure that I have at least 5 minutes at the end to give you next steps for next time. So I'm going to stop my screen, and hopefully there are some questions that have surfaced. And if there haven't been, maybe just share something that you're, looking forward to, and you don't necessarily have to ask me a question. It could be anybody on the screen that or that you want to ask something to. And so I'm going to stop talking and then let you guys take it over from here. Any initial thoughts? Oh, Nancy?
I was wondering, I think I heard that we were going to have some type of book that goes with this, or but I'm not sure.
Excellent question. Yes, you are all receiving a set of effective universal instruction, and it is a action-oriented approach to Tier 1. So this book is rooted very deeply in Tier 1. They were mailed last Thursday, so a week ago yesterday. I did send them priority, or not priority, but first class. But I don't know about you guys, but I know in Wyndham, we haven't received mail in our mailboxes in like at least a week. So our post office is not really on task at this point. They're struggling with people, I think, keeping people, working, employed. So you will be receiving that book, and some of the things that you'll be asked to do in between the months that we meet is we'll be reading and exploring different parts of that book. So be looking for those because they did go out, and hopefully they're going to get to you.
Thank you.
Soon, I hope. Okay.
Andrea, will the coaches' books come to our homes?
No. I was not thinking, I guess, about that. I just knew that each school was getting 4 books, and then there was an extra for the coaches. So I put them all in the same envelope. So hopefully your principals will be able to get that turned around to you. Or if you want to do it this way, I do have a few digital copies of the textbook as well. So if you would prefer to not wait for the hard copy, I can give you a link to a digital copy. And so you can let me know if that's something that makes more sense for you instead of waiting. But I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking or not thinking when I was putting them out. That was an afterthought to send them directly to homes. Sorry.
Derek, I'll be giving you my address.
And I'll send it right to you.
Thank you.
Good question too. I forgot to address that. I wanted to, but I forgot. Any other thoughts or questions?
So you will be sharing that link where your notes are and any resources, and where will that link be located?
That's a good question. So the recording of each session, there's going to be a link with a passcode because I'm having it record to the cloud and not to my machine. At the end, within a day, at the end of each session. So I would say, because we're moving them to Thursdays, by the end of the day on Friday, you will receive an email from probably Terry that will have that link and the passcode, and the note pages will be attached as they're gonna need to be attached as a PDF, I believe, because you won't be able to see it because it's behind a firewall, and we aren't really allowed to use Google Docs, and they're kind of cracking down on that. If the PDF is problematic and you're not able to do with it what you want, let me know, and I can always copy and paste the notes right into the email body. So let's try it with the attachment first, and if that's like a no-go for folks, let me know, and I'll just copy and paste it into the body of the email. But that will all come together, the link and the notes. And I had written in the email that principals would get the link, but I had a coach approach me and ask if the coaches could get the link as well. And so if you're a coach that wants your own access to the recording, then let me know, and I'll make sure that you get the access to the recording as well. Which makes sense, actually, if I think about it. Any other?
I have a quick question, and this is just the way my brain is working right now. I know we've committed to meet between now and June and read a book and kind of implement things, but I guess beyond that, like, what is our commitment? That's a good question. Because it seems like, coming to a meeting and all that, like, I'm just like, what's it going to look like in practice, and what is really our commitment, like moving, with all of this?
Sure. So you'll have a book. We're not going to read the whole book. There's a couple of chapters that align really well to the priority components. So what you do with the rest of it will be up to you. But there's going to be a couple of chapters and a few sections that we're going to dive deeply into. So keep in mind that this is a training. So they're not just necessarily going to be like meetings, but they're going to be more like you're going to get stuff, and then you'll have some discussions. You'll have some cross discussions with other teams, as well as some within your own team. And I would say that in terms of time commitment, I mean, depending on how long it takes you to read the sections, the other two modules are fast. I mean, they're like 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes. And then what you choose to do as teams really will fill in the rest of that. So my goal is to give you as much as I can while we're together. There will be some stuff that we won't be able to cover. So that will be done in the in-between time so that we can talk about it the following time. And then the rest of the time will be, what you guys decide to do with it at your own individual building levels. And I know that I'll be attending some individual school meetings. I attended Angela's meeting the other day, and then I'll be attending team meetings for everybody else over the course of the next few weeks. The purpose of that meeting is really for you guys to ask me questions that might pertain specifically to your program, and for me to just get kind of an idea of how you run your leadership team meetings. So I'm mostly a fly on the wall at those meetings, just so that I can learn about like how things are run in your team meetings. And I do want to say that I can attend additional team meetings if you want me to. So if you know that you're going to talk about some of this stuff at a team meeting and you would like to have me there, please send me an invite. And if I can be there, I will make every effort to be there so that I can be part of the discussion if you want, but that's not required. You don't have to invite me to come to anymore once you've done your initial one. That'll be entirely up to you. Does that answer your question, Tina?
Andrea, I'd be happy to expand on that as well.
Great.
Let me put my face out there. Hold on. So you can see me as well as hear me. All right. So one of the initiatives that really did prompt this pilot was, in addition to the ability for Andrea to be able to have her capacity be best utilized in an effective, efficient, and collaborative way, was to also chronicle the journeys that all of you are on in your desires to really improve in practice in relation to MTSS, because we feel like that's going to speak volumes to the other schools that are struggling with some of these very same challenges. It's going to speak volumes more than Andrea or I could do individually, or we could even do collaboratively. Being able to really chronicle the journey of how you're taking the trainings and really implementing them directly in your schools is really the next step for us to be able to really share the importance of really knowing what MTSS is and how it really does have to start at that tier 1 practice right in the classroom. So our goal is to really showcase that over the summer with a kickoff to the new school year. And then we would invite the schools that are participating in these pilots, this pilot as well as the other pilot that we're also running, to really share some of that journey with other schools with the intent that they too can learn from the journey that you've taken. So that's the bigger picture as well.
Yes, thank you for adding that. Yep, you'll want to make sure you take notes of where you were today to where you end up in June. I'll be interested. I think it'll be cool to see the changes as they come along. Amy, your hand is up.
Well, I'm going to tag Derek because this question that Tina just asked we had a conversation. So it might be helpful to have Derek share what the leadership team is doing in Cherryfield.
Yeah. I mean, we're really kind of in a different spot than a lot of the other groups because we did the summer work. We kind of had a plan. I think we outlined with you, Andrea, and I can't remember the other lady's name, but
Rachel.
Yeah. Yeah. But really, we've been doing a lot of our implementation of MTSS this year is really centered around behavior because we didn't have a behavior system. So we've been implementing that. We've been working on that plan. So I guess for me, our goal is probably going to be different compared to some of the other groups, but I don't know. I guess my biggest question right now in my mind is how we're going to kind of fit into this equation and kind of where we're at.
Will you be using any of your leadership time to discuss the work that's done in the pilot meeting?
Yep. And we've already been utilizing some of that for some of the work that we set up in the summer.
Great.
Right, but
so it'll be interesting to get. I was just going to say it'll be interesting to get as you guys process. It'll be interesting to hear how that evolved for you because you had the summer program as well. So I'll be interested to see like how those things line up and how your experience might be slightly different maybe to some of the other folks that didn't have that. So I'll be curious about that.
I think also I just want to add as the leadership coach is that we made a decision, Cherryfield made a decision that one meeting a month of the 2 leadership team meetings would be based around this work. So it was around what they're already doing. So whatever is the homework or the thing that is happening, they're going to build it into that time period. So it makes it a little bit more, I think, doable for teachers and teams to be consistent and come back to your regular meeting with whatever you're asking them to do.
That's a good strategy too. Any others before I jump into next steps and get you out of here before 4:30? Once. Okay. If you have other questions that pop up, email me. It's fine. I can answer anything that I think is pertinent to the whole group. I'll send it out as a group email. Anything that is just sort of individual, I'll try to keep it between you and I and of course Terry, because you're going to CC Terry every time you email me, and vice versa. Okay, so this first segment is going to have what is going to feel like way more. Actually, Tina, this would fit with your question. It's going to look like, there is a lot, relatively speaking, to what I'm going to ask you to try and accomplish before we meet again in February. It won't be like this every time. So there's really only 2 in between months that it's going to feel like there's a lot, but mostly it won't be like this. So don't panic when you see the next steps and the to-do list, because it will not be this involved every single time. But I will forewarn you that there are a few things that I'd like you to do to be prepared for the next discussion. Okay. All right, let me just share my screen one last time. Okay, I'm not sure why it's numbered at number 7. It should be number 1, but whatever. So you're going to get a link to a module that was created this past summer. And that module is really important for everybody to take the time to go through, because it's going to lay the foundational pieces of everything that we're going to talk about over the course of the next 6 months. And there's going to be some pieces of that module that are going to be things that we'll carry like all the way through each time we meet. There's some vocabulary work in there, and there's a couple of videos that are pertinent to to our work together and our discussions together. So if you have time to do nothing else, please prioritize completing the module. It should take about 20-25 minutes-ish. You can cross number 8 off when you get to it. We're not going to do the belief survey this time. So make a note, cross that off. We're not going to do that. That will come between February and March. I would like you to read chapters 1 and 4 in the book. However, I will also say that if for some reason your books don't come, just let me know. Like if it gets to be like a week or 2 out and you're like, I still haven't gotten my book, just let me know so that when we come together in February, I don't have a bunch of stuff planned that folks have not had an opportunity to have read, right? To be prepared for. I want to make sure that our time together is targeted and beneficial, minute by minute by minute. So if for some reason that can't happen, please try to let me know within a few days before we meet again, so that I can adjust. And then this is the other one that and I have this in a different format too. So if for some reason the books don't come, I can provide this one to you in a different format. But number 10, I don't know why it's number 10, but number 10, read and be ready to discuss. It's the 80-20 dilemma. It's called the 80-20 dilemma, and it appears on pages 172 and 173. It's short. It's this bottom part of 172 and this little top part of 173. So it looks like a lot, but it's actually not. So you're going to want to be ready to discuss that. And what I mean by that is, as you're reading, take a sticky note or two, and if something comes along in the reading that you feel particularly passionate about, or you question, or you disagree with, or that struck you, or you were like, wow, I didn't think about it that way, write it down on the sticky, because we're going to break up into groups for about 10 minutes, and there's a discussion protocol that I'm going to ask you to go through relating to the 80-20 rule. So if you have time for nothing else, you want to watch the module and you want to do the 80-20 dilemma reading. I may attach the printout of it just preemptively, just in case the books are delayed. So if I don't forget, I shouldn't because it's being recorded, I will just attach that, because we'll bypass any of the possibility that the books aren't there in time. And then the link will also be in the email as well, but this is a survey that shouldn't take you too long to do. It's mostly true, false, and short answer kinds of responses, but this survey is going to give me the fastest way of learning about where you all are currently in relation to MTSS, RTI, tiered delivery systems, team meetings, data, decision-making, like all the things we're going to talk about. This survey really just kind of gives me like, it kind of lets me know where you're at individually, but then also as I break it out into schools and look for trends, because again, I want our time to be really, really targeted. So in order to do that, I needed to collect some information from you, and I didn't want to do it during the meeting because that I think is a waste of time. So if you want to click on the link now, it's in the chat, and otherwise the link will also be in the email that you'll get. And because it's Friday, you'll get it by the end of the day on Monday, so that you'll have it. So it looks long, but most of it, a lot of it's just one-word answers or, short answer questions. It is 4:29. Technically, we're done early because it's 1 minute, but not overly early. But still, we finished on time, which is a big improvement for me. Are there any last pressing things before we close it out? Okay. Clearly, nothing is burning. So if you have questions, just send me a quick email. Otherwise, have a good weekend. I don't even know what the weather is supposed to be this weekend, but hopefully it's not going to be bad. I haven't even looked at the weather report. So have a good weekend, and we'll see